Okay, so it is 12:30, so I no longer have to just sit here staring at the screen waiting for you guys. I'm excited to talk a lot about marketing for entrepreneurs today. And please feel free to share anything in that chat room, or if anything is also not connecting for any reason, just let me know. Hopefully we can navigate that as we go. So this is the offline and online marketing, and it's really our first online webinar for the Start Something series. And with that, we are focused strictly on how to market for entrepreneurs. So this will be really fun. Just some good practices before we get started. We have shared, but please make sure you stay muted this whole time. And we also recommend that you turn off your video just to help with the connectivity. And lastly, I encourage you, you can make this a full screen in Zoom, and then please keep that chat function up. You can ask questions throughout. Grayson's going to be monitoring that. And then at the end, we'll actually have a Q&A time. We will be bringing on a guest speaker, so there'll be times to also chat there, and a contest midway through. So you can actually win something just by listening today. So over the next hour, what I hope to do is really identify who your ideal customer is. We're going to talk a lot about learning specific strategies when it comes to offline and online marketing, and then learning how to actually map out a marketing campaign. Ultimately, all this is just to help you become a more effective marketer for your business, whether that's something you already have set up, or perhaps it's an idea. Or lastly, you might even work in a company and have to innovate based on growing a new product line or even maintaining a product line. So that is a little bit what this is. And the series of webinars that we are doing, today's is actually really focused on the actual fundamentals and strategies of marketing. Later, we'll actually go over how to create more of those marketing assets, and it's going to be a little more tactical as we keep going through these workshops. So I encourage you guys to register if you haven't already for the full series. In 2 days, on Thursday, we'll have another workshop coming up. All right, so the fun part, who I am. So my name is Diana Wright. If I haven't met you guys, hello. I work at the Entrepreneurship Center at the Papa John Center at Iowa State. And if you're thinking here, what is this photo? This is actually me, and no, it looks a lot like child labor. But I've had I would say I've been very fortunate to grow up around two parents who are both entrepreneurs. So since the age of 10, I have worked in and outside of their businesses. And this photo is actually taken at my dad's store. It's called the Red Geranium. So if you guys are ever in Clear Lake, Iowa, you can definitely pay a visit. And it's a floral and home decor retail storefront. So at the age of 10, I got to do a lot of the grunt work, whether that was actually sweeping the shop floor, learning behind that counter, and interacting with customers. And then my favorite part at the end of the day was counting the money. So that was a little bit about me that you guys might not know. And my passion really lies in helping entrepreneurs grow and build businesses in Iowa. So a lot of my work at the Papa John Center focuses on this, and I feel very fortunate to help people in this way. I would also say right now that entrepreneurship is really critical. I don't think it's something to avoid talking about, where we are dealing a lot right now with this COVID crisis and perhaps why we are online. So this is a very uncertain time for entrepreneurs, for those particularly who are running businesses. And what I have noticed is recessions, they really make room for disruption. So it's a really awesome time to be an entrepreneur, even though it's pretty scary right now. And so with what might happen, we don't really know, but it definitely shows that self-employment, it can be a solution. And it really focuses, or it forces entrepreneurs to adapt and be nimble, which is, I think, one of the best things entrepreneurs do. So with that, we will, let's see, get going. Okay, So with this whole series and today's focus, I do want to note that I think small businesses and startups are a really special being. It's much different than looking at a big national chain. Marketing for entrepreneurs and small businesses, you cannot actually replicate what the bigger companies are doing. So for entrepreneurs, you really have $1 and 1 hour. And how you spend that is really valuable. It looks different for different businesses. And so that's something that kind of want to make a note here. And with the young business, I think it's really important that the biggest thing that you can differentiate yourself with is that special bond with that customer. It's something that the big retailers or the big businesses, they don't always have a direct connection, and therefore they lose sight of, what it is their customer values and where their customers are at. So this is a really important thing to know when you are thinking thinking about small business marketing, is just to focus on, where you see it. So right now, something that's really relative to me is that right now I see so many people trying to save the small business in their community with all that is happening and a lot of different closures. And so even this weekend, I walked down to one of my favorite coffee shops in Des Moines, and all I did was load up my money card in hopes that later that business will be open after all what's going on. And so I explained this as an example, really to show it's very personal to me, and I'm one of the biggest advocates for this small business. And keynote here, it's about relationship marketing, and that's something that's so important when it comes to this local small business and to your startup marketing. Next thing I kind of want to talk about is, who are you actually seeking to change? And so this comes up a lot. It's another form of the question, who is it for? And so you'll get this asked whether it's your family member that wants to know, okay, what are you working on here? Or even if it's a partner or potential customer, who is it for? So there's two ways of really looking at this. And one of the answers you might say or even hear is, well, it's for everyone. I can help everyone. And something to note is that everyone is a lot of people. Everyone is too actually diverse, too enormous, too indifferent, and everyone is just very, very expensive. So what I like to point out to entrepreneurs here is that really focus on changing someone, or perhaps it's actually a group of someones. And so someone has a belief, someone lives somewhere, someone has a worldview, and someone is actually very specific and strategic. With this, there's something that's called the smallest viable market. And you can actually, this gets referenced a lot in Seth Godin's recent marketing book called This is Marketing. And it talks about how few people could you actually find that would find this valuable, what you're doing, and still make it worth doing for you, the entrepreneur, the business owner. So an example that you can directly think about is, if you could only change 30 people, or maybe it's actually 3,000 people, you'd want to be choosy. And so the smallest viable market, it really gets the entrepreneur to focus, which then actually leads to growth, which is really important. Niches is a really, it gets talked a lot about in marketing. And so what I did here is just created a really quick list of actual associations. And so a niche is also another way of thinking a group of someones, what I just talked about. And so it's a good place to start, is actually learning what is your niche, who is that group of someones, and which market, which people that is. So as you can see here, these are just a few. You can actually go online, depending on what you are working on, and just type in, whatever association that is, and that will help you identify a list of people, which we'll get at a little bit later. So the next thing with identifying who your target market is, I actually call this creating an avatar You know, a lot of times you can refer to it as Betty or Bob, which I might through this presentation. And other people have heard this as creating personas. So if you're ever in like the design thinking world, there's a lot of profiles and personas that get created as they're inventing and creating new products or services. And I believe that every entrepreneur, you should do this for your business. Even if you have already opened up your business, maybe you're already running, or for those who are working on their ideas right now, this is a really important place to start. So going back to Seth Godin's smallest viable market, if you have to choose 30 customers, you know, to become your ultimate fan, your customers for life, who do you actually choose? And so a great way to do this is just actually getting out a piece of paper, pen, and drawing. Yes, you can draw, or actually finding a photo of who you think it is. And so the easier part here is the demographics. I think these are questions that a lot of people can quickly go through. So what is their age? What's the personality of that person? How do they actually live? What's their political affiliation? Do they vote? Are they non-voters? What's their religion, male, female? Are they engaged, recently engaged, or hope to be engaged? Or even if they have children, grandchildren. So those are more of your demographics. Next, what you want to look at, which is actually harder to do, is more of those psychographics. So this would be, you know, what do they actually dream of? What do they believe? What do they want? And then what are the stories that they actually tell themselves? And this is another way of thinking, what is their worldview? And so if you can get into the stories that they tell themselves, what their worldview is, that's actually where the gold is in figuring out who your target market is, who that customer is. And then what keeps them up at night? So for entrepreneurs, this is really important because you're going out there and trying to solve a pain point and figuring out what their need is, or also how you're just driving more value to how they live. So keep those in mind. And then I like to actually name your avatar. And so I have it listed up here that you can name it Betty, you can name it Bob. What's even better is if this is actually a real person. So say you actually already have a customer, or you're about to have a customer, maybe you've done some customer discovery phone calls. And I mean, honestly, you know, with their permission, you can highlight and show, you know, we have Bob as our avatar. He's someone that's bought from us for over the last year. And here's kind of his buying habits. Here's what's really important to him. And also here's how he likes to get communicated to. That's a really great question to ask when you're talking to potential customers too. That goes into creating this avatar. And why I think avatars are really important is just because when you are creating a team, so whether you have a team of freelancers, maybe they're contractors, or even employees, it's really quick and easy to actually say, hey guys, we're talking about Bob, and here's what Bob's needs are. And it's then a way for you to always directly to connect to your customer and remember that you are creating this business to offer value to them. So that's something really important. I want to highlight here that, you know, this is the time in the workshop, if we were in person, that I would allow you guys to spend time in creating your avatar. So unfortunately, we do not have that time today with the webinar. It is why I'll be bringing on my next guest. But please make sure after this webinar that you actually do take the time to create your avatar and to really think about this as you're developing your product, or even going back into understanding, well, who is our customer? Maybe you've been open for 2, 3, 10 years, but it's important to never lose sight of your customer. So what we're gonna do right now is I'm gonna invite Stephen Brockshus. We're actually gonna do kind of more of a, instead of a screen share, I just gotta pull this up. Okay, Stephen, if you wanna go on video here, and you can unmute yourself. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay, and I'm gonna, if you guys haven't already, you can do a speaker view. which is a feature of Zoom. And that way it should focus on whoever is actually talking. So today we have Stephen Brockshus, and he is the founder of Farmland Finder, and it is the easiest way to find farmland online. I like to say it's the Zillow for farmland real estate, and started around 4 years ago. I've known Stephen for over the last 5 years. He's participated in a number of the entrepreneurship programs at Iowa State, one being the SciStarters Student Accelerator Program, which Papa John Center leads. And Stephen recently actually raised a successful fund. So he raised $3 million, and he is hiring too, which is pretty awesome. So Stephen, welcome. Did I miss anything?
Yeah, no, that's great, Diana. It's exciting to be on board here, and I feel like in the same boat as everyone else have had a million Zoom meetings over the past 2 weeks. But this one's really exciting to have kind of a larger group and one, get to learn from Diana, but I'm really looking forward to sharing a little bit of what I've learned over the last 3 years from starting my company as an undergrad at Iowa State to raising, now this is our second round of capital, to hiring and expanding the team. And so really looking forward to the conversations today.
Awesome. It's cool. So I have Stephen here, and I really wanted to talk about how did you first identify your customer? So I think it's easy to hear me on this webinar say, hey, this is important to create your avatar, to create your target customer. Yet a lot of people do skip this. So can you first share, when you were starting 4 years ago, Farmland Finder, did you actually spend the time to zoom in on who your customer is going to be?
I wish I would have. My assumption getting started really, so a little bit of background on what we do at Farmland Finder. When we started, 3.5 years ago, I was at a farmland auction with my dad, and it just floored me that at this farmland auction, the auctioneer had taken a picture from the side of the road of this property that he was selling. He had blown that up onto a big poster from Walmart and had that in front of the room. And that was virtually all the data or information that he was sharing about it. Said, here's the picture, here's the land. It's the best quality land in the county. All right, let's start bidding. And it floored me, in a day and age when literally half of the people in the room, farmers in the room, had like a Fitbit, an active tracker on their wrist, where everyone has smartphones and you can find things online. It just floored me that there's no information available. And so I started kind of just asking around and poking and asking the auctioneer, asked some other landowners and our neighbors, farmers in the room, how they think about getting information or what does that look like. And so really in the beginning, I set out to solve that problem of helping people like my family get access to information so they can make better decisions when going to an auction or when buying a farm. And so my assumption starting out was that I was going to sell create this software that would give people all the information they needed. And I was going to sell that to all these landowners, and I was going to sell it to all these farmers. And that was about the extent of my customer discovery, or the extent of, digging into a profile of customers. Mm-hmm. Fast forward to today, we still help farmers and landowners, but I learned the hard way that those weren't actually the people who we provided the most value to. I didn't know what a value proposition was. I didn't know what a customer profile was. I didn't know what features and benefits were. And I kind of learned along the path that, hey, we can help folks kind of ancillary, but our customers are people who are paying for our services. Our customers are people who have very deep value that they get from your product or service, and they're willing to pay for that value. And so it took a long time to even refine and hone in, what are the avatars of all the stakeholders, which might be a lot of people. And then who are the avatars of customers, people who will actually write a check. And then when you get the avatar, what's the next step of not only the information Diana shared, but also the value they get and how you actually sell your product to them. And so this avatar is kind of a step number one to really going super deep into each and every customer segment. And for us now, like our paying customers are banks and appraisers and institutional investment firms and farmland brokers. None of those people were people I ever thought I was going to sell this product to, because I thought I was going to sell it to farmers and landowners. But if I would have talked to more and more people, I would have learned a lot sooner, kind of where our product fits.
That's very good. So, and you were referencing stakeholders. So I know a lot of what I'm talking about is customer, and you really alluded to it. So your customer might be the farmer, but who actually are the stakeholders and pay for it and drive the value chain are your banks, your institutions. And so how do you keep focus on that customer, um, and keeping that in line with your target market as well? Because you have a few people to really look at.
Yeah, great question. I actually have up on my screen in front of me a snapshot of our avatar that we
Okay.
use, that our sales team uses. And we just brought on a new marketing intern from Iowa State University. And so she's going to have her eyes and ears on it to help us refine and do this better. But
Mhm.
I'll just walk through kind of what this avatar looks like for us.
Cool.
And that might give a little bit more insight into how do we take kind of this demographic and psychographic information. And this is one step further of
Mhm.
actually using that when being able to sell to someone or understand, how to sell to someone. And so this avatar, we call him Bob the Banker.
Okay.
So Bob's and Betty's, love it. But he's a regional ag loan officer at a local bank, small branch, small town. And so I've broken out here. Okay, we've got our avatar and all of the details that Diana had outlined. And then we've added a couple of things to this, such as what's the value proposition that this Bob the Banker is getting from our specific product that we're selling him? What are 3 benefits for that product? What are 3 problems that this solves? And what are the features that are most important to help this person? And so we kind of break it out in a few. We take the demographics and psychographics, and then we feed that into our understanding of how that relates to us as a business. And then we always give an example of an existing customer that would actually fit this profile. So how that looks, we've got Bob the Banker. The value proposition is our tools help him be a better expert and save him time when doing market research about farmland. The 3 benefits that he gets from using our tools is saves time when managing his data and information, saves time when researching the market, and helps him be a better expert when communicating with customers. And so the benefits, we don't talk about our product in that. It's what's this person provide. And it's really interesting when we look at the next section, which is problems. This problems we pulled directly from some of these psychographics. So what problems does Bob experience? Well, he spends a lot of time and does on administrative tasks, gathering information, and he really doesn't like doing that. The second one is probably the most important insight that we uncovered by talking to different customers is he fears not being seen as the expert or actually being able to help his clients.
Mhm.
And so some of these psychographics, and there's a lot of reasons why we've kind of brought this one to the top. But if you can really start to understand, well, what do they lose sleep about at night? What are they most concerned about? What would drive them crazy? And if we can be a tool or provide a solution that helps them, assuage some of their fears or some of those problems, that's helpful. And then we've got a
Mhm.
couple other problems. He has problems with his boss and getting approvals. Has problems communicating internally with his team. And then we give, like I said, some tangible features from our product that would solve some of those problems. And then we have an example. And so this example is really interesting because it helps our sales team to not only take this theoretical Bob the Banker and all of these psychographics and demographics and kind of product kind of graph fit, but it helps them think, oh, am I talking to this type of customer? And so our example is Iowa State Saving Bank. They're a client of ours. They're using these tools to more efficiently research the market and underwrite loans in their process so that their people spend less time doing administrative tasks and have more standardization across their team. And so we have this kind of tangible customer example. And what that does is I wish that I would have developed this before I ever started selling to people, because as we've sold to people, this is where we realized, oh, we should codify this. And we've been able to kind of get this checklist. But then this checklist changes over time, or this understanding, we learn, oh, our assumption on what they fear might have been slightly off. It's not this, but it's one layer deeper. And by actually writing that down and documenting it, you yourself are going to be way better able to sell. You'll be able to communicate better through your product team or your organization, how to actually deliver value, for what these customers are looking for. And some of the problems you can solve through your business solution. Some of the problems you can solve by being a really good customer service person and just helping to provide more value in different ways. And so that's just a one example of kind of an avatar of Bob the banker. But we have on this sheet alone, I've got 6 different avatars. And then for different types of folks, we've got sub avatars depending on, are they an individual landowner or are they a landowner for a larger institution? And we kind of break these out. And so I'd really encourage anyone to get really familiar with this avatar process that Diana has kind of outlined here as a step 1. And then as a step 2, really digging in, how does that translate to you and your business and the value propositions and the benefits and problems that you're solving.
My last question, Stephen, is how often do you revisit it? You kind of alluded to it, but do you, the entrepreneur, the one who's directing the ship, revisit your customer avatar?
Yeah, great question. Not as much as I should, right? The first time I ever created an avatar was when Diana told me to create one a couple of summers ago. And so put one together then. And then essentially every time that we've added a new team member or that we started getting in front of customers, it's an opportunity to review that avatar. And so it was one of those things for the longest time I created and let it kind of just sit on my computer, but never really looked at it and did stuff. And then as I started talking to more and more customers, I realized some of the assumptions I had about them were maybe not right, or some of those assumptions should be corrected. And so right now, in the past month, we've been in hiring mode. In the past month, we've hired a salesperson and a marketing person, hired an operations person. And so I'm pulling these off and dusting them off a little bit to refine them, to share them with our other team members and give them the opportunity to help create an even better refined understanding. And it's fun. Now we're using it as an active tool. We have it in a Dropbox folder. And so we're using it as an active tool for our salesperson. Every time that they get a new client and in one of these buckets, they can add that as an example so that anyone in the future then can see those examples. We have a refined understanding. And it's kind of a living, breathing document for us to really intimately be able to know our customers and serve them as best as we can.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you sharing. Stephen, how can people connect with you, or if they want to learn more about what you're up to, what you've done within your marketing?
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to get a hold of me, email is always the best way. I'll drop my email address in the chat, but It's just Stephen@farmlandfinder.com. And happy to be a resource or connect you even with someone from our sales or marketing team as well. If you'd like to see some more examples of what we're doing and how we can be of help.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I appreciate taking the time. And I will now actually go back to screen sharing. So thank you, Stephen.
Yeah, thanks. Absolutely.
Okay. So we should be back up here soon. Let me just get the slides. Okay, awesome. So kind of moving on after we just talked about how you actually identify your target customer, creating that avatar. I wanted to go to probably what is the most common question that I get asked is, which form of marketing is the best? So as if there was really a superior to all others, I know this would be an answer that would help solve a lot of entrepreneurs' needs, but I'm here to tell you that there isn't one. And I don't believe there's actually any best form of marketing, because nearly every form of marketing, every form of advertising, it can be effective, but also nearly every form of advertising and marketing, it can be a total waste of money and time. And so it's dependent really on a number of different factors. So first off, what is your business? What's the actual marketplace? And even your position in that marketplace. It might depend on what the season is, or even when there are such outside things that happen due to even like what is going on right now. The best form of marketing changes dramatically. And so let me just pull up the chat so I'm not missing anything. Sorry. Okay. I was making sure we were not going over, you guys could all hear me. So anyways, getting back to that, there is actually a reason why this slide is blank. And it's really to go back and kind of create a clean slate of what you think you know about marketing and what forms might be the best. And I want you to kind of erase what your preconceived notions are, maybe what your personal likes and preferences are, as you are actually not the customer. And you want to also remove, if you have been in business, any phrase that starts with, but this is just the way we've always done it. And so I would take an entirely new approach and really look at what marketing, how it can be the most effective and also the best cost. So this is where you actually want to meet where your customer is already at. And so meet them where they are literally, which is a lot of times physically, where they're actually going and how you can reach them, but also meet them where their headspace is. And so that's tougher to do, but it's something you really want to think about. So reaching your customers, there really are two different kind of marketing frameworks. And so the first one is simultaneous marketing. And this goes to show that this is where you have multiple channels or multiple forms of marketing that you're using. And then the second one would be sequential marketing. And this is more of your one-step, one-hit marketing channel. And one of these actually is a multiplier effect, meaning 3 times 3 equals 9 instead of 3 plus 3 equals 6. And so to cut right to it, that would be your simultaneous marketing. An example of this would actually be, say there is a business owner and all they believe in is Facebook marketing. They think it's the answer. They think that's the right way to go. So that's the only thing that they focus on, say, for the entire summer. There might be another business owner that's just maybe three doors down that does Facebook marketing, but they also may send out a postcard to everyone in the neighborhood to come in and check out the store. Maybe they even have a referral promotion so that if you bring your friend or if you bring your neighbor, you get X. And so that goes to show that there is definitely more than just doing one thing. And part of this webinar is to show online and offline marketing strategies. So what we are going to do actually, getting right into the online and offline, I thought it would be pretty fun if we did a contest. So if you can all really pay attention to what I say, and I hope that this is going to be the most clear and that you guys will understand. So what you want to do right now is actually click on that chat feature. And Grayson, if you can just say a hello so it does pop up for people, that would be awesome. Let's see. And then what's going to happen is I am going to ask you a question. And so what you will do once I ask you this question is you will actually type out in the chat your answer. And you have 30 seconds to type out. You do not actually want to hit the return button or type it out before the 30 seconds, because then that means people will actually see your answer. And so this is a contest. If you guys want to know what you guys have at stake to win, these are actually 2 books that we'll be giving away. So this is Marketing by Seth Godin. I have already mentioned that. And then also one of my favorites is The Ultimate Sales Letter. It's by Dan Kennedy. Talks a lot about copywriting and then direct response marketing, which is important. So those are our prizes that we're going to be doing. Grayson is going to be monitoring all the answers. He'll also be following up with our winners. So I am going to get my timer just so we have 30 seconds on the clock. And 1 second here. Okay, so we are going to get started. So the first question, you have 30 seconds to type this out. And then when you hear the buzzer, that is when you actually hit return. Okay, so this is our first one. All right, so please name in 30 seconds all the online marketing channels that you can think of, starting now. You have 5 seconds left. Okay, so I hope you guys can hear that at home. That means the 30 seconds are done. So please make sure you hit enter right now. And we will see what comes up in chat here. For some reason, I lost the slide. Okay. 1 second. Yeah, I hope people responded. I'm not able to see the chat for some reason, but hopefully Grace.
Yep, Diana, they all responded. I'm going through and tallying up right now.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay. So, all right. So with that, thank you, Grayson. So he's going to go through that and see what our answers are. For some reason, I cannot see the chat function right now, so I feel a little blind. So I apologize for that. But here is just a kind of comprehensive list of the different online marketing channels, the different forms that you can actually do to try to reach your customers online. And so starting out, I did not create this list in 30 seconds. This was actually created going through a lot of different online resources. And so it's important to know there is a lot. And so when we think of online marketing, it is not just social media marketing. It's not just YouTube videos. There's a lot of choices to actually evaluate. And part of that might be an affiliate program, which is our first one. There's Amazon, which is very obvious, but there's also ways to sell and market on Amazon, which might not actually include your product on there. There's blogs, content marketing, there's email signatures, online events and webinars, Facebook ads, of course, video production, product placement, and kind of going through a lot of these. It's important to know that don't let this list exhaust you by any means, but just know that kind of going back to what I started earlier is that you really do have to erase your mind of what you think you know is the best way to reach someone and be open to all that does exist in the online marketing spectrum. So we have our second contest and it goes in line to exactly what we just did, where you want to click on the chat feature right now. I'm going to ask you a question, and again, you are going to have 30 seconds to answer. So this one's going to happen a lot quicker just because I'm ready for it. So 30 seconds, name all the offline marketing channels you can think of. Please do not hit return until the buzzer goes off. Starting now. All right, and that is 30 seconds. So please enter, hit return. There's no cheating allowed, so please don't be late and think of more. And then that goes right into what our offline list is. So Grayson will take a look at that. He will count up who the winners are. And after I kind of go through this slide, we will actually announce that. So offline list, I think it's important to know that, yes, there is actually an offline world. Our minds, we gravitate a lot to the online just because we are on our phones a lot, we're on our computer. But it's important to know that particularly when it comes to relation-based marketing, offline is really, really important and it's valuable. So some of the things that are included in that offline list, there's the business card, which a lot of people go right to. There are conferences, demos. So you might be in a grocery store where you can demo your product, or at any show or event. There's drawings, which is actually a really easy way. It's an incentive to encourage people to raise their hand because they want to win something. but they also might then leave their contact information to help you build your list. There is direct mail, which is the top one, second column here. And that's important not to also forget, just because we can do a lot of inexpensive things online. There's also ways to do direct mail where it can be affordable and reachable, depending on who your audience is. And so these are just a list of different offline lists. One of my personal favorites is the actual thank you card, which you can see in that third column. And that's also right to the point of getting to know your customer, creating that relationship, and a lot of times asking sometimes for that referral through that relationship. It's important. So we are now gonna kind of take a break, and Grayson, if you want to come online, hopefully there are no ties. If there is, we'll kind of figure out what we're gonna do. Feel free to come on.
All right, so there was a clear winner in the online portion of this contest. Hannah Spies, I believe I'm saying that right, had 10 answers
Awesome.
there. I think she might have been the only one that said Yahoo as well. A lot of people had Google, Bing. I think she was the only one that said Yahoo. So that was props to her for that. Offline, we do have a couple ties. So we had 4 people with 8 answers. Let's see here. Chris Martin, Adency Start, Brad Dreyer, and Danielle Y. So we had 4 people who all had 8 answers. So we'll get a hold of you guys, and we'll take care of getting you prizes.
Cool. Thank you, Grayson. So Grayson will also privately chat you guys who won. Thank you for everyone participating in that contest. Hopefully that was a little fun. And then I'm going to go right into the next piece here. So we just went through talking about the online and offline marketing channels. Something that I think should be a first step to any marketing plan, or when you are developing a marketing plan, is first to actually determine what is the desired result. So just like you would in starting a business or even a project, you want to know what's the desired result, what is the goal. And so to do this, I think every marketing campaign or every form of marketing, it has to have some way that you can track it. So some sort of tracking capability. And then you'll have to actually calculate, what are you actually willing to invest to either generate a new customer or also to expand sales of an existing customer. And so this will all really help you to determine, what's your return on your marketing dollars, or that budget that you've invested in. And so marketing campaigns, this is another great way to identify what it is after you figured out your desired result. And so I can go through these, but the first one that I think is really important to any entrepreneur or business is that new customer acquisition. Really, how are you generating leads that are valuable to your business, that will ultimately become your customer, and really, hopefully, that can become your life customers, the people that are your tribes, the people that will follow you. Myself, where I go down to my local coffee shop and try to support them just because I really want them to survive what is going to happen here. So that's the first and probably the most common marketing campaign that people start with. But just keep in mind, there is a whole list of other marketing campaigns. So there might be a non-buyer follow-up, which is basically what it sounds like. They did not buy from you the first time and you are following up with them. There is the lost customer reactivation. So perhaps you have a software service like Steven does, and maybe they have not been active for over the last 6 months. They haven't purchased the subscription, and you're trying to reactivate them through a lost customer activation campaign. There is the referral program, which is awesome. This is where I would spend a lot of time if you do have a product or service that can generate referrals. There are upsells and downsells. There are special promotion and events, which is very common for small businesses and startups to do. And then towards the bottom here, there's education and nurture campaigns. This is something actually the Papa John Center, this is something we do a lot of. We have a monthly Entrepreneurship e-newsletter that goes out. A lot of you have probably received this, but you can even go back, and that is an example of a education and nurture campaign. We usually are not selling anything, but it's really that nurturing that we're trying to develop and create a relationship with people. And then the last one down here on the list is the genesis or the origin story. I would encourage you all, if you have never done this for your business or even for the business idea that you are developing, to spend some time here, because this goes right back to relationship marketing, and people really want to know, they want to see who it is that started, how did the business get started. It's something that, you know, even in storytelling, we become fascinated with the origin story and that genesis story. So these are just a few marketing campaigns to kind of think about. And now I'm actually gonna kind of take you into how do you actually map out a marketing campaign. So this is an example to really show you that it can take online and offline approach. This is a real example. So the red geranium I mentioned earlier in this presentation, this is actually my family's business. So 2 summers ago, we actually had an unfortunate event where the storefront completely got flooded from the apartment upstairs. So my dad's business was actually out of business. It was closed for 3 weeks during the summer, which was a really crucial time for his business. And so what we had to do is, during that whole time that they were closed, we created a marketing campaign. We called it the Red Geraniums Lemonade and Celebration Sale. And the whole campaign was really around that special promotion of an event, which was the reopening of the store. So the goal here, the desired result that we wanted, was to drive traffic to the store. It was for sales, and particularly to make up for that loss. And then it was also to list build, and that was building out the customer list. So this campaign here, and you can kind of see it, you know, it's a mix of on and offline. And so what we did, we started with social media, Facebook, we created an event page. We did a lot of social media. We trickled that throughout the whole time. This was taking place too, just so you know, over 2 weeks, we did this marketing campaign. There was cross promotion, so there was flyers that we actually put in other Main Street businesses next to him. We created a press release, and that then garnered online and offline press, which was awesome. We did a drip email campaign, which was all online, and then directed them to the store. And then lastly, we did a postcard. So my dad, he has a whole customer list, and we were able then to mail that out for the event, the store event. And so I'm going to show you a few examples. These are real examples. I tried to take some screenshots here. But these are 2 Facebook examples. The one on the left actually shows one of the press releases we did send out. A North Iowa blogger picked it up, and then she created a story all around the making lemonade out of lemons in Clear Lake, Iowa, and it featured the red geranium. And then as well as there was a lot of Facebook and an element of surprise, we gave out 50 different red envelopes to the first 50 people in the store. And as you can kind of see in that photo, that's actually the storefront. There was paper covering the whole windows, as keeping it an element of surprise to see the store once we opened it. This is just another example. I talk a lot about relationships. That's a photo of some of the employees at the Red Geranium, including my dad. And then some of the shoppers. So we had a really young shopper, all dressed up, very cute as a lemon drop shopping. And then this is just a graphic to the right that just shows what we sent in the email, also for that postcard too. So I wanted to just show you, kind of going back to when you're mapping out a marketing campaign. It's really important to go through, and I think to kind of start, it's probably the easiest to just get paper, and you can draw circles for what online is, and you can draw squares for offline. If you're really fancy, you can draw the icons. and even people that might potentially have a CRM or customer relationship management software. A lot of times these mapping out for marketing campaigns is actually included kind of in this drag and drop. So this is just something I wanted to go over. It's really important when you kind of go back to creating the marketing campaign, just because it helps you identify all of the different online and offline strategies that you can use to get your desired result. Okay, so moving along, I wanted to talk about the house list. And this is the last thing I'm really going to cover today. And I've mentioned this a few times now throughout this presentation, but your house list is one of your biggest assets as an entrepreneur, as a business owner. And so the biggest important thing is that segmentation is key. And you can do this simply by just creating an Excel sheet. That is probably, I mean, it's the most free version. And what you'll want to start doing as you get customers or as you talk to potential customers is writing down who they are and what makes them unique. So you might have customized fields. You might record their actual buying history with you. Or other things that they might buy if they're not yet buying from you, how they make decisions, the demographics, the psychographics that we cover. Because what's important to know and why segmentation is key is that you do not always want to send out an email and blast it to your whole list. And an example of kind of just going back to what we talked about in the marketing campaign is that if you do a lost customer campaign, you don't want to send that campaign out to people who are your current customers. And the same thing if you send out to, you know, they're not yet a buyer, but you want them to be. You don't want your buyers to get that email or to get that postcard or to even get that YouTube video. So this is where segmentation is really, really important. And there are times though that it does make sense to send out to your entire list. And that might be in the case of when you're trying to nurture or maybe try to educate your list, you might be able to send it out to everyone there. So another question to follow up here is, how do you actually build out your house list? And there's a number of different ways to do this, but really I would start with any on-sign collection. So this might be where your place of business is, if you do have a place. So that would be, you know, if the example is the local coffee shop, they might have an actual drawing to win, you know, beans for the whole year. And so that way the customers are raising their hand and then they're giving their permission to actually give their information to that business. And that's really important that they give their permission, they opt in. Other ways too are even when you're calling, you can ask, like during that market research call, if it's okay that you can have their permission to follow up with them in a week or for your newsletter. Events, trade shows, those are awesome things. The second one is from referrals. And particularly, you know, this is really where you can create your referral program and ensuring that, you know, these are really strong referrals. You might even, in that custom segmentation, note who that referral came to, so you can even send that thank you to whoever referred it. Third one here is lead generation. This is something that a lot of people focus on. I believe it's really critical in any business. And that's really how you're generating your leads, how you're creating a funnel to basically have them become a customer of yours. So later in these marketing workshops, we'll be actually going through how you create these marketing assets, whether that's a landing page, whether it's writing copy and how you create a call to action, or even the social media marketing and how you create that to funnel leads. So that's something to really highlight and something that we're going to focus on after this workshop. Fourth piece here is do it yourself. So I know a lot of people who are very nimble, and that's the great thing about entrepreneurs, is that you can a lot of times look this information up. There are public records, there's directories, and there's associations, which I alluded to earlier, that you can either get in front of, but make sure you try to get permission here as you're building your list. And then the last option is probably the most expensive option. You can actually rent and buy lists. So just keep that in mind as well. So here, these are just a few of the tools and references I want to talk about. This workshop, granted, could only be an hour, so I understand I can't go into everything when it's covering the marketing fundamentals. These are just books that I would reference. Creative, I know Grayson is going to be doing a webinar Thursday, going really into the creative and how you create scrappy branding. These are just a few things I recommend. So Canva, Adobe Creative Suites. When I talked about house list in that CRM just now, Excel is probably the easiest one, but there are different CRMs. There's HubSpot, there's Aweber, and Infusionsoft, and all of them kind of vary based on how big your list is and how robust your business is. There's email tools and then writing as well. I'll go into this more when we talk about copywriting, but because you are a marketer and you have to be an effective marketer for your business, writing really matters, and making sure that you are spelling things correctly. So I just recommend Grammarly, which is free, and that is an easy way. It's an AI that basically proofs and checks as you're writing emails, any sort of communication. You can also do the second thing and find or hire a proofreader too. So these are a few just different tools. We'll be sending the slides out here after here. And yeah, that's really the end. So now I would open up to any questions that you guys might have. Feel free to chat those. And I think Grayson's going to come on and ask any of these, if there
are. So at this point, we don't have anything that's coming in. Feel free to shoot us any questions either now, or you have Diana's contact information there as well. Diana did plug the rest of my presentation I'll be doing on Thursday, same time, 12:30 to 1:30, really jumping into branding for small businesses and how to do that on a shoestring budget. I am going to put in a link here in the chat for a survey. It's a very short survey that we ask that you all take just to help us improve these as we're doing them going forward, topics that you're looking for from us to cover, depending on how long we're going to be either doing these virtual meetings or once we can get back into person, doing those as well. I'll go ahead and put that into the chat feature right now, and we'll also send it out in an email later on this afternoon with the recording of this. It looks like at this point we don't have any questions. That means you did a good job, Diana, in covering everything that was needed. You can hang around here for a few more minutes, but other than that, I don't know if you have any closing remarks, Diana, for anybody.
Yeah, if there's no questions, my contact information is on the screen there. You can email me. I would actually love to set up any Zoom calls with anyone, as much of what we do at the Papa John Center is we meet usually face-to-face with entrepreneurs as they're getting started, or also as they're adding and growing or working through any challenges. So I would definitely I'm really open to having any sort of conversation with any of you guys who are on the call today. So feel free to email me after this, or even if it's just to talk marketing and what you guys are currently working on. I would love to see if you do create an avatar, send it my way. I would love to provide some feedback. And I know I say that on behalf of all the Papa John Center team too. So yeah, that's kind of all I have to really end. I hope you guys at least learned, how you identify your target customer, what different online and offline marketing strategies there are, and to really, clear your head when it comes to trying to figure out what the best form of marketing is, but understanding, you have to take a pretty fresh look at that and evaluate all of the marketing, because they can be ineffective and they can be effective. And so hopefully that was helpful. And then also just learning how to actually map out a marketing campaign. I encourage you guys all to spend some time there. And then yes, follow up with me. I'd love to see what you're working on. So thank you guys, appreciate it.